This is the Rays POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Tampa Bay Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Tampa Bay Rays POSTCAST, your spot for instant Rays reaction after every single game. My name is Jonathan Shields. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Johnny10Shields. Big time win for the Rays. Just a much needed win in this one. And, we talked about yesterday, the Rays need to stop beating themselves. In that fourth inning, it looked like the Rays were beating themselves all over again. Junior can't capitalize the play, tagging Perez out at third that would have saved a few of those runs. But the Rays end up getting over it, mostly because the bats woke up. So in this one, we're going to talk about how this was a big time win. We're going to talk about, can this win hopefully turn into momentum for this team? We're talking about a huge series ahead, and we're going to look ahead of that series. We're going to talk about how solid Littell was. But first, we got to talk about the offense finally cashing in.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So in that first inning, I thought it was so important for the Rays to score. And, they got the runner to third with less than two. Josh Lowe was able to get them in. But the two-out hitting by the Rays today was fantastic. And we saw it in the first inning with Jake Bingham coming up and, boom, automatically making it 2-0. I thought that was so key because with the way the Rays went yesterday, being able to not just get one run there but two, I thought was just absolutely huge. And it's a quick side note. I know I said I wasn't going to be live today because I was traveling back from Europe, but shout out to the rain delay, which allowed me to be able to hop on here and be live. And it ended up being a good thing for the Rays as well, as we're going to keep talking about their offense now. So, and then we go into the fourth inning, and it was like, oh, here we go all over again. And it was, I thought it was going to be the Zack Littell home run, the Gleyber Torres home run, which would have been a home run at Steinbrenner. So I checked, and the Tigers were able to get 3 out of that. And I really thought the Rays got a double play on Parker Meadows to be able to almost get out of that tie with the tie game. But Littell held to 3. It is what it is. And the Rays got the runner to second in the 5th. Can't cash in, but the 6th, man, is when the Rays really needed it, and they got it. And Ha-Seong Kim, man, came up clutch. Runner on second, 2 outs, and that's where we get to our turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
That was such a big moment in this game because, again, you are thinking, okay, are the Rays going to be able to cash in unlike they did yesterday, or are they going to be able to hit with runners in scoring position with 2 outs? Not only did they get one run with 2 outs, they scored 4. It started with Ha-Seong Kim, and then we got Taylor Walls, and then Danny Jansen, who was fantastic again today. He's been so good. And then Yandy. It was just that whole inning, but specifically the Ha-Seong Kim at bat. He went 107 right over the center fielder's head. There's really, how do I want to word this? There is very few players on the Rays roster that play shortstop, if any, that can do what Ha-Seong Kim did with that pitch. And that's why the Rays paid him the big bucks. And for him to be able to come through in that moment, in that spot, when the team just needed this win, was why, again, the Rays paid him the money that they did. So good to see him cash in. And then Taylor Walls, I thought it was really good today. First time he played second. I should have looked that up, when the last time he played second was. It's been a while, and he just looked, he's the best defender in baseball, and that's why he will always be on this Rays team in some capacity. He had 2 hits today, including that RBI. And then Danny Jansen, man, I thought he had a home run. I think it was in the 8th or 9th, whenever his last at bat was. He only ended up with 1 hit, which was the double that scored. But I thought he had great at bats all night. And then obviously Yandy comes up and does Yandy things, which was huge. And then we go to kind of another turning point after Junior gets the home run, just getting ready for the home run derby. That's what Junior does. And the bottom of the 7th, right? I thought, here we go again with this bullpen. It's they're gonna implode because they've given up 2 straight runs coming in this game 6 straight times, and then Clevenger's able to get Riley Green out. And I think a big key, honestly, this whole series was keeping Riley Green at bay. And I don't know if I love the decision bringing Fairbanks in the 9th. We'll get to that a little bit later, but it was good to see him at least come in and pitch because they mentioned in the broadcast that he hasn't been getting his usual work. So good to see him come in and still be dominant. But that 7th inning was so big because that felt like Detroit's chance if they're going to come back. It was going to be right there. and Clevenger was able to get the job done and hold them where they were. But we talked about the Rays, 2 or 3 runs aren't going to beat the Tigers. It's 4, 5, 6, 7 runs that are going to beat them, and that's where the Rays were able to get to. They weren't content. They were able to keep adding on. They weren't content when they tied. They weren't content when they took the 1-run lead. They kept adding until they felt comfortable where they were. Let's quickly talk about Zack Littell. Not quickly. Let's spend some time on Zack Littell because he continues just to be so solid. 5 2/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 4 strikeouts. If your starting pitcher goes 6 innings, gives up 3 or less, you take that every single time. And Zack Littell has done that in every single start since April 10th, except for one against Boston where he gave up 4 runs. How dare he? And I know he's going to be a popular name around the trade deadline, and maybe the Rays do trade him, even if they are in a playoff spot, just because he's not re-signed next year. But, man, he's a guy, you give him the ball every 5th day, you know what you're getting. And I said yesterday I like the matchup for him just based on where they're playing, bigger ballpark, he pitches a contact, whatever it may be. And outside of the 4th inning, he was really dialed in. The one area of concern, the walks have been up a little bit for him, which is very out of character for him. But, it's Zack Littell. I assume that he'll be able to sort that out. But he's in the zone, made some big pitches when he had to. And I thought he was really, really good outside of that 4th inning. That 4th inning things away from him a little bit. But even when the bases loaded with just 1 out, he was able to get that fielder's choice, which I thought was going to be a double play off the bat, and then get the next guy out. So, holding it to 3 runs isn't ideal, but it could have been worse, especially with that runner on third with less than 2. But again, Zack Littell just you know what you're going to get, and with so many of these Rays pitchers, whether it's Taj in the starting rotation, whether it's Uceta in the bullpen, whether it's Montgomery and he was up, that you don't know what you're going to get with every start. With Zack Littell, you know what you're going to get with every single start, and I think that there's great value in that. I really, really do. So, as we will keep looking ahead at this game, while we're talking about pitching, again, shout out the bullpen for not giving up a run. It's sad that we have to talk about that, but it does have to be discussed because how bad they have been. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but just seeing them get out of trouble, it is so easy to say, "Oh, here we go again," right? No, they were able to hold things down, keep things going, and for them to not use some of their 8 guys. I mean, granted, they used their 2 best relievers, Clevenger and Fairbanks today, but without having to use their whole A bullpen and still be able to hold them to 0 runs, very, very big, I think, for this Rays team. But we're going to talk about how this win can gain momentum going forward for the Rays. We're going to talk about how good this lineup was a little bit more. We're going to look ahead to the huge series ahead against the Red Sox right after this. This episode is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope. You called for the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication. Offer an app on your phone or on your computer. Your whole team can share our number and respond to customers with a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this? Open Phone is offering Locked On Show listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. Again, this is for all Locked On Rays listeners. 20% off your first 6 months. That's openphone, openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights or golf on the green or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game with your friends while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use and fast to pay out. It makes every regular season game feel like must-watch events, especially in baseball, 162 games. They have the daily promotions, things like that still make it interesting. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So if you guys are in the live, make sure to leave a comment. I know we don't have some of our regulars in here because I told them that we weren't going live today because if the Rays played at 1, we were not going to be able to, as I was on a plane for 9 hours earlier today. But thankfully, not thankfully, I guess, but the weather pushed the game back and we were able to get this in, which was very exciting for me. I love doing these, obviously. But let's quickly talk about this offense one more time before we look ahead. Every single person on the Rays offense got a hit. The Rays had 5 players. Let me count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, with at least 2 hits. Utter domination. That leads us to our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
And I'm going to give it, I'll do co-player of the games. Ha-Seong Kim is one because of that huge hit that he had, and I feel like we have to include him. But I'm going to give it to the second one. I'm going to give it to a guy that didn't even have an RBI, Jonathan Aranda. Guy is a professional hitter. And the way that he's hit lefties this season has been inspiring. I watched Jonathan Aranda hit lefties, and I'm inspired that I can be great at whatever I do. That's how good Jonathan Aranda has been this season. And it is so well deserved that he's going to be an all-star. And remember, he went through a mini slump. I think it was like 0-14, 0-15. And since then, let me go get his exact numbers for you guys. Since then, he has 3 multi-hit games in his last 4 games, including 2 3-hit games. So he's right after going 0 for 8. No, 0 for 10 or 2 for his last 16. He comes back with a 5-game hitting streak, and in 3 of those 5 games, he has at least 2 hits, and in 2 of those games, he has 3 hits. So it just continues to be dialed in. But let's talk about, can this win gain momentum? And I think it can, because it was the different ways that the Rays were able to score and attack offensively. It was everyone in the lineup. They got the power with the doubles and the home run from Junior. They got the slap singles from Chandler and Taylor Walls. They were doing stuff that made them successful during their big time win streak. And then the pitching side of things, they did their stuff that was successful during the winning streak. The bullpen came in and pitched with confidence. There was no letdown. Zack Littell knew exactly what you were going to get him. The Rays did even kill it and did not beat themselves today. I talked about it yesterday. There's so many times I felt like the Rays during this streak against the A's, Twins, Tigers, Orioles, where they were beating themselves. The other teams weren't beating them. And the Rays today didn't let that happen. I think in game 1 of this series, the Tigers absolutely beat them. Yesterday, I thought the Rays beat themselves. And today, obviously, the Rays absolutely took care of business. But let's look ahead to that huge. And this is huge. I mean, the Boston's up 2-0 on Colorado right now. They're probably going to win today. So the Rays are going to be a game and a half up, as the Rays, by the way, picked up their 50th win of the year today. Pretty cool. But let's go to the standings real quick to double check. So the Rays are 50-43. Seattle is probably going to lose to New York. So they're going to be a game and a half up on Seattle, and they are going to be a game and a half up on Boston. So Boston, if they win today, will pick up their 49th win, but they have a few extra losses in the Rays. So the Rays are going to be a game and a half up on Boston, barring Boston losing to Colorado today. But let's look ahead at that big time game for the Rays tomorrow. And I was looking ahead at the series. The Rays will have to face Bello and Crochet, the Red Sox 2 best pitchers, which is normal when you play a 4-game series. But the first 2 games, I think the Rays could have the advantage. So going tomorrow is going to be Taj Bradley versus Walker Buehler. And Walker Buehler honestly kind of gave it to the Rays the last time they played. The last time the Walker pitched against the Rays, he went 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, and 7 strikeouts. That was the game where Zack Littell gave up a million home runs. I'm pretty sure it was 4-3. It was Zack Littell's 4 home runs. Exactly. Look at that memory right off the top of the dome, guys. Since then, Walker has given up at least 4 earned runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. So again, Taj is a guy you never know what you're going to get from him, but his last time out was better than his stat line shows. He went 5 2/3 against the Twins, 6 hits, 3 runs. But that was when the bullpen implosions started. So, I think Taj pitched very well his last time out. But the key with Taj, man, he needs to be in the zone. He can't fall behind pitchers. When he falls behind pitchers, that's when his stuff starts to get really, really flat. But, he's 5-6 with a 4.7 ERA. I would take Taj Bradley or Walker Buehler. Walker has over a 6 ERA. I think the first 2 games are where the Rays got to get their licks in. Because on Saturday, the Red Sox haven't announced who they're starting, but the Rays are doing, I think, their best, what the best they throw out there. Drew Rasmussen followed by Joe Boyle. So, that's what the Rays are going to put out there. So I think the Rays really need to take advantage of these first 2 games. You cannot go down 0-2 going into the weekend. At worst, going to Saturday, this series needs to be split 1-1. I would prefer 2-0. If the Rays can take 3 out of 4 against against the Red Sox, that really just puts you in such a good position going into the break. And again, It's so important for the Rays, score early, and they've been scoring early a lot lately, but score early and stay ahead. As we go to the comments, again, not a ton of them in here. Mostly my fault, didn't tell everyone we're going live, but I love Legos in here. And here he says this was a much needed win. It was a massive, massive, massive win. And it was one that is important, I think, going forward to stay off a sweep from the Tigers. As we go to It's Cat, he says Mason Engler has the potential. God, I can barely talk right now. Mason Engler has the potential to be such a huge weapon in this pen. Yeah, I agree. He had a great ending today. He was efficient. Andy Freak could barely get some words out when because he has such an efficient eighth inning. I'm surprised he didn't go back out there for the ninth. But interesting to say the least. If I love Legos again says, will Joe Boyle become a full-time starter at any point? Yeah, and he kind of already is. How do I word this? He's still throwing the same amount of pitches he was if he was a starter, but he's just following an opener. So until they get in a spot where they're comfortable with Drew Rasmussen going back and throwing 5-6 innings like he was early in the year, I think this is going to be Joe Boyle's role now. Can they stretch out to a 6-man rotation? Maybe. But I think the plan when Shane McClanahan comes back is McClanahan throw 2 innings, and then Joe Boyle will go behind him for what like he's doing against Drew Rasmussen. So that's a good question. It's something that we're definitely going to look into. As Legos again talks about, with the trade deadline coming up, who's most likely to get moved? I think the Rays are going to be buyers, but if you're saying one guy most likely to get moved, I mean, Zack Littell makes sense from the contract standpoint, unless the Rays have interest in re-signing him, which I think, is such a luxury to have someone that what you're going to get when he goes out there every 5th day. So I'm a Zack Littell fan. I've been on the record saying that, but, with the talent you have in AAA and with Shane McClanahan coming back hopefully healthy, you might hesitate, but you can never have enough pitching. So I don't think, honestly, the Rays will trade anyone big. They need 1 or 2 bullpen arms. I'll tell you that much. That is exactly what they need. But again, not too many comments in here. Mostly miscommunication on my end, but shout out the weather for allowing me to do the postcast today. So if you guys are watching the replay, hopefully a lot of you are watching the replay since you didn't see that we were live. Make sure you guys still leave a like and comment. For us who are watching live, make sure you guys leave a like. We'll be right back tomorrow as the Rays will head to Boston for a massive, massive series. Hopefully, we will see you guys then.